right, welcome into Surviving Paradise, the podcast that takes a sometimes serious, oftentimes humorous look at the claim by Jehovah's Witnesses that they are living in a modern-day spiritual paradise. Prepare this week for the snark, because it is on. I'm your host here, Stacy Bauman, former elder, ministerial servant, and a kid raised as one of Jehovah's Witnesses throughout the 70s and 80s. As I do every week, just a warning, some of this stuff can trigger you. Cheese danishes, demons and stuff. Just note that each episode may feature sarcasm, humor, hopefully a little bit of education, and it is never, ever meant to offend anyone, simply my own take. Well, would you look at that? It's that time again. The would-be kings of Jehovah's Witnesses have released their latest update, Governing Body Update number 5, and what a treat it is. Will we finally get permission to celebrate our own birthdays? How about a new Caleb and Sophia cartoon showing the kids planning for college? Will we learn that they have redefined the last days to mean days that aren't really days after all, but more like spans of time that can cover centuries? Who knows? No, I want to just end the excitement right here. Hold on tight. It's none of the above. However, I continue to believe something big is coming, so stay tuned. And my guess continues to be that it will be announced at the annual meeting here in just a few weeks, so stay tuned. With that said, this governing body update number 5 is hosted by the congenial Gage Flegel. For the most part, this entire 17-minute episode is a big nothing burger, but nonetheless, for the people among us who are actually thinking, I do have some of my own observations to share. These governing body updates often facilitate a news dump by the kings, or as a venue to slip into some sort of change that would have rocked the entire religion just a few decades ago. But I'm here to tell you, not so much this month, not so much. All this did was support my personal belief, again, that something much bigger is coming sooner than later. However, what jumped out at me after watching this spiritual feast was once again how incredibly dumbed down this religion has become. Am I the only one begging at this point for some sort of type or anti-type, some sort of new interpretation on a random beast in the Bible? How about what a random bowl or a trumpet blast means? A statue? How about a dream? Anything. We got nothing. Just a whole bunch of nothing. They ain't got time for that anymore. And Jesus has already told us, Jehovah's Witnesses or ex-J-Dubs, he told us all that stuff back in the 20th century. We weren't even supposed to be here right now. So here is Gage to give us a whole bunch of nothing. And why should that shock us? You're in charge of saving mankind on earth. Hell, you've been personally chosen by Holy Spirit, and you and your friends alone understand the Bible. But here we are, governing body update number 5, and there just really isn't much to say, folks. I guess that means we can expect another governing body update next month. I don't know. Instead of being reunited with our great-grandparents at a resurrection or asking a random Israelite guy what it was like to get circumcised with Iron Age tools. Has anyone else thought that? What was that like? Well, in case you're wondering, from Joshua chapter 5, verses 2 through 5 of the New World Translation, we're told, quote, "At that time, Jehovah said to Joshua, 'Make for yourself flint knives and circumcise the men of Israel again, a second time.'" Ouchie! Quote, "So Joshua made flint knives and circumcised the men of Israel at Gibeath Haralath. This is why Joshua circumcised them." Just for the notes, again. Quote, "All the males of the people who left Egypt, all the men of war, had died in the wilderness on the journey after they left Egypt. All the people who left Egypt were circumcised, but all the people born in the wilderness on the journey after they left Egypt were not circumcised. End quote. Oh no. Oh man. Every month I listen into the governing body updates, hoping to know when we will finally get to sit around in paradise and ask these resurrected Israelite guys how their circumcision went with those flint knives at Joshua chapter 5. Maybe even ask the Israelite women who married them, what was the finished work? How did it look? Well, okay then. Not this month, folks. Maybe the next governing body update? I don't know. These guys really know how to build anticipation for that whole Paradise Earth thing. So if you have a list of questions for that time, add that one. What was that like, getting circumcised with flint knives? Back to our update. The affable Gage Flegel shows up on camera with a sport coat and a non-matching pair of slacks and a neatly trimmed beard. All things that were a no-no when I was an elder and you had to get on stage. But times have changed. He may look a little stiff in front of Jesus' new cameras, but he always gives it his best shot to convey some sort of emotion. I have a pretty good idea that King Flegel, and damn, I continue to say that sounds like a character out of Shrek. King Flegel is the one governing body member that cries. He actually cries on camera. Just my gut here. He is definitely the emotional one on the governing body, and that is how I knew he was going to be pulling on our heartstrings this month. He begins with the standard introduction by saying, quote, "In this update, we will discuss why we must feed ourselves spiritually every day. We'll also hear about some exciting upcoming preaching initiatives. But now, here are some updates," end quote, and we're off. Who remembers the anticipation older generations, those that were in older generations of Jehovah's Witnesses, had at the old-style district conventions? Do you remember that anticipation as we tried to guess what the new book release would be? We would pull out those little schedules they handed us at the door when we came in. We would scour the talks and the symposiums, looking for some clue as to what book the organization, maybe a brochure, were going to give us that summer. Man, those were exciting times. We would take a break from playing hangman in our notes to listen to what rousing update we were getting in printed form back then. Does anybody remember that? Yeah? Well, listen, those days are long gone. They don't do that anymore. Gage kicks off his update by telling us that since their last report, is that what these updates are, by the way? They're reports of some sort? Yeah. That 9 Eternal Happiness International Conventions were held in Cameroon, in Romania, in Brazil, in Canada, a very obscure Far Eastern city of Canada, I might add, Poland, Sweden, Taiwan, and Panama. And this one was fun because it shows a giant screen featuring governing body member Jody Jetley giving a talk without a tie on. And I thought, well, would you look at that? Set the tone, Jode. They don't have to wear ties, not even members of the governing body. And then finally, they also visited Portugal, according to Gage. He goes on to say, and there were some of us that lived for this stuff, the numbers, that over 32,000 delegates came from over 77 countries to support these conventions, with the combined peak attendance of over 251,000, with over 2,040 people baptized. And by comparison, because yes, I immediately went to a comparison, Satan the Devil's FIFA World Cup 2026 got more than 9,017,000 people that attended just the FIFA Fan Festival across 13 host cities during this year's FIFA World Cup. And it was the highest figure since 2006. And I just thought, looks like Satan is onto something here. He doesn't even have his own organization or a movie studio here on Earth, but he has more host countries, many more attendees than Jesus and the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses did for their all-important, life-saving international conventions. Very strange, because we're told as Jehovah's Witnesses that God is speeding it up in his time, but Satan, his kid, well, I gotta tell you, he's got evil taking steroids. I never thought I'd see the day where Satan outdid Jesus for viewership, but folks, the numbers don't lie. I would love to raise my hand at this point in his update and ask Gage some questions. But, well, in case you haven't thought about it yet, they're really not encouraging that anymore by putting everything in videos minus a live studio audience. Just a man and a camera. Questions, by the way, these days are reserved for questions from the readers, my kind of people, and even those are sorted and handpicked by the governing body. Asking your teacher or the speaker questions sort of went the way of the old theocratic school written review. Just kind of disappeared. It's not really encouraged anymore. So please, after all the numbers and a little bit of update on their international conventions, carry on Gage Flegel. And if you missed the first 9 international conventions and would like to attend, he assures us that 7 more will be held in the month of August, so get your passports ready, people. He then asks into the camera, quote, what can we then look forward to in September of 2026, end quote. And I thought, I don't know, is Christopher Nolan going to direct the next governing body Bible movie? He just did that whole Odyssey thing. Can they get Nolan into their movie studio to shoot a movie? I don't know. How about on my guy Noah? Can you imagine? They may have to still create CGI angels and stuff, but imagine what Nolan could do with giant demon baby Nephilim. Can you imagine? Imagine Nolan's spin on the 500-year-old Noah dragging a silverback gorilla back to the ark. Was Noah buff? Who plays Noah? Oh, so many questions. Oh, man. Is that the big news for September 2026, Gage? Please tell me it is. It is not. Just me being a smartass. Sorry, folks, but don't give up hope. Because Gage Flegel next says, quote, as previously announced, there will be a worldwide campaign in September featuring the Enjoy Life Forever brochure. Publishers who decide to serve as auxiliary pioneers during the month will need to choose either the 15-hour or the 30-hour requirement. End quote. Will they now? Sounds like it's coming from the heart. People, I mean, what? First, you current Jehovah's Witnesses got life so easy these days. I don't care, come at me. Your life is so much easier than ours was. You too can have the highly respected title of auxiliary pioneer for 30 full days by just going out in service for 15 hours a month. I mean, some of us remember when you couldn't have this highly sought after title of auxiliary pioneer for anything under 60 hours a month. I mean, wow. Times have changed. I wonder what the apostles had. Did Peter sign up for the 30 hours, but his brother Andrew only chose the 15? Multiple choices? Multiple hour choices to choose from. Same man-made title. I mean, what? Can you imagine how this is going to go down? How that conversation's going to go at the book cart? I can hear it now. Hey, oh, I see Brother Jones. You're one of those 15-hour auxiliary pioneers. Eye roll, bit of a smirk. Well, I signed on for the 30 hours. I guess you're doing what you can, huh? I mean, this is a real dynamic in Jehovah's Witnesses. Same title, multiple choices on how many hours you want to put in. Are they going to call this out from the stage when they announce who is signed on to Auxiliary Pioneer in September for this special campaign for a publication that is already their main Bible study aid? So we're doing exactly what we did last month? What makes this special? Oh, the shame. Can you imagine if this is announced from the stage? You're just one of those 15-hour auxiliary pioneers. You're not one of the 30-hour auxiliary pioneers. Nothing like vetting. The side eye that will be going on in Kingdom Halls during the announcements for this special campaign and auxiliary pioneering. What in the world is this crap? Made up titles for completely made up hour requirements, but you get the same title? Who is the genius back there in New York on the service committee coming up with this stuff right now? And Brother Flegel says this into the camera with a huge smile on his face, but apparently puts no thought into what he is actually saying. And what is going to happen? You get the same title for doing less on a special campaign featuring a book we feature every month, not very special. But make no mistake, this is going to pit Jehovah's Witnesses against Jehovah's Witnesses. It's human nature, folks. I promise, it's human nature. You might even remember that even in the Bible, the Apostle Peter liked to cast some side eye at his fellow apostles. Remember in John 21, verses 21 through 23, where we're told, quote, "So, when he caught sight of him, Peter said to Jesus, 'Lord, what about this man?' Jesus said to him, 'If it is my will for him to remain until I come and only do 15 hours instead of 30, of what concern is that to you? You continue following me.' So the saying went out among the brothers that this disciple would not die. However, Jesus did not say to him that he would not die, but he said, 'If it is my will for him to remain until I come, of what concern is that to you?'" End quote. Yeah, Peter. What concern is that to you? Sister Smith is a 15-hour auxiliary pioneer, and your wife has to go out 30 hours to get the same title. How dare you ask for common sense answers? And it looks like Jesus forgot about human nature again. He does it a lot in Jehovah's Witnesses because he has the governing body offering up multiple choice hour requirements for Jehovah's Witnesses during their special campaign in September 2026. And it's sure, and I promise this is going to get the JW gossip mill moving at breakneck speed. I mean, can you hear the sisters now? She only has one kid. I have 3, but even I can do 30 hours for a month. What's her excuse for only doing 15? It's going to happen. And again, why is this kind of thing even needed? You know, the title. Why is that title of Auxiliary Pioneer even needed? Don't you just want to, out of the goodness of your heart and love for Jehovah, to spend 15 to 30 hours to get out there and save people's lives without needing some kind of special campaign or special title? I mean, don't you just want to do it? But never mind. Because you forget it was the ancient Judge Joe Rutherford that liked to build a corporate dynamic in this organization. And don't forget, that same judge is up there in heaven helping Jesus right now direct the current governing body on special campaigns and multiple choice auxiliary pioneer assignments. Not much has changed, but he's not done. Gage then says, quote, "Additionally, a special talk with the theme, 'How can the Bible help you?' will be presented in congregations worldwide." End quote. And I'm here to say that nothing says rich spiritual feast, like pulling out a frozen pizza from 1950, reheating it in the microwave and serving it up again as a fresh meal, all while you smile at the people eating it. I mean, seriously? How is a talk called How Can the Bible Help You special in any way? Do you know how many publications, how many brochures, how many tracts, how many videos this organization has printed and distributed for the better part of a century with the exact same theme? How can the Bible help you? For decades, they've been pitching this. They've been pitching it through the better part of 2 centuries. It's a reheated pizza pulled from the back of the freezer. And off the top of my head, let's review a few that just pop into my mind. See if you notice a theme. But keep in mind, Gage Flegel is telling Jehovah's Witnesses this is a special talk titled How Can the Bible Help You? Very special indeed. How about a few that pop into my head from my time as a witness or before? Going way back to my guy Chuck Russell, studies in the scriptures. How about aid to Bible understanding? How about insight on the scriptures? How about my book of Bible stories? How about examining the scriptures daily? How about the little publication, you remember those 192 pagers, The Bible, God's Word or Man's? How about the brown poopy reasoning from the scriptures? Blah, 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 blah. What in the world makes the September 2026 talk titled How Can the Bible Help You special? What makes it special? What exactly is new or fresh? These men are rolling out the same thing over and over and over and over and over again since the late 1700s. I mean, look, I loved my mom's spaghetti in 1977, but I just don't think it's going to be as tasty in 2026, dear Gage Flegel. But here they are, the faithful slave on camera telling us they have a special talk teed up for Jehovah's Witnesses titled How Can the Bible Help You? Oh boy. But just when the hype was reaching a fevered pitch in this year's month, Gage Flegel then says, quote, also, we are pleased to announce a special, we're getting that word a lot in this update, a special arrangement for the Circuit Overseers visit from September 2026 through February 2027. In place of the Circuit Overseers Public Talk Part 1 of Episode 2 of the Good News According to Jesus will be shown. End quote. Told you it was going to be snarky. It's a very boring update. I burst out laughing. Of course it will be, Gage. You got to show your movie. You need to get some heavy mileage out of a story every Jehovah's Witness, and quite frankly, a lot of people that aren't Jehovah's Witnesses have had in their possession their entire lives. You know, the story of Jesus in that book called the Bible. Here we are again. I still wonder what that looked like in heaven when Jesus himself greenlit breaking ground on a movie studio, along with making sure the first major motion picture they produced was a story about himself. But here we are. And it's all very special, Jehovah's Witnesses. And look, I'm sure there are more than a few J-dubs watching this update that just fist pumped when they saw that. Don't you remember what it was like in, 8th grade? When you showed up to class and the teacher told you that we're watching a movie today in class. Do you remember what that felt like? The joy we had. We were so jacked. All right, it's a movie day. You could actually whisper to your friends in the dark. You could write notes. That was the thing back in my day, guys, to that cute girl you were crushing on a few desks away. Or you could even fall asleep. You could even sleep during the movie, with your only worry being that you might drool on your desk and you didn't want anyone to see that. You got to wake up first before the lights come on, wipe up the drool. Jehovah's Witnesses may be holding on for dear life right now. They're holding on for dear life. They're shunning their kids. There's all kinds of tragedy, as you're soon going to hear. They just want to get to paradise, but no one on this planet among Jehovah's Witnesses wants to hear another talk from the circuit overseer when he visits. So they finally get a Sunday off with a movie day. It's Movie Day Sunday. That God, literally, that they built the movie studio for, is feeding them by means of movies during the circuit overseer's visit. Out with the boring talks, in with Movie Day. Gage Flegel then says to the audience, quote, "We encourage everyone to invite interested ones and Bible students to attend this special presentation." There's that word again, end quote. And I just cannot stop calling it out or laughing at the current state of this organization. There is zero pretense on having to be a teacher or even a mentor. Now, much like we have all been guilty of doing with our kids, we just sit our Bible studies down in front of a screen somewhere if you're a Jehovah's Witness. They now have movies and videos and cartoons to babysit their Bible studies. And not just any movies, but a movie about Jesus? This has been done a few times throughout history, folks. The source material is well known. The only unique thing about their version of Jesus in this Jesus movie is that this very Jewish carpenter now has an Australian accent. That's it. Go watch the movie. It's entertaining. But Brother Flegel then tells us that in order to prepare people for the full movie, a new video has been prepared for use in the ministry and will soon be available on the only website powered by Holy Spirit. And I said to my monitor while watching Gage, do you mean, something like this little thing called a movie trailer? Is that what you're trying to describe? A trailer, a preview? Yes, folks, that's exactly what he means. They have a new preview on the website. The Jehovah's Witnesses can just hit the play button at their neighbors' doors and get a movie trailer of their Jesus movie. It even has its own landing page on the website. Go look, it's there. And again, for us old-timers that visited Brooklyn Bethel, there actually used to be a massive neon sign you could see from Manhattan telling you to read the Bible daily. It would blink. But now, in 2026, well, Jehovah's Witnesses can whip out their cell phone. They can open a browser, go to the website, and play a movie trailer for people at the door. And if you're wondering why Jesus himself, I don't know, is this too much to ask, by the way, didn't just build a movie studio way back in the day so that no one even had to read a Bible and he didn't have to print billions of them? Why didn't he just do the movies and the movie trailers from the 1700s on? If you're wondering, yeah, so am I. I don't get it. We're now pumping out movie trailers. But we're not encouraged to think about any of this, folks. It's all very normal, led by Jesus Christ. If you're a Jehovah's Witness, your donated money is certainly going a long way these days. We got new movie trailers, a new website landing page, and so much more. I'll get into some of it. But with each passing video, my generation that is still trapped in that organization, they must be asleep. I can't imagine what people my age or the older folks are doing. There is no more emphasis on biblical scholarship. There's not even emphasis on reading their literature or holding a book in your hand. They don't mention deep prayer or meditation or the many reminders to contemplate deep spiritual things. They just don't. They just have movies, websites, book cards, tablets, and don't forget they now have TikTok. I mean, delivered to us by something we never in a million years could have imagined, even just 20 years ago. A governing body member on a camera in a movie studio wearing a sport coat and slacks, not a full suit. He's even wearing a baby blue dress shirt, not a pristine white one, and he's got a beard, and it's on a studio set. This religion has completely evolved into a digital evangelizer, something that they openly condemned just a few decades ago. And you can't help but reason that it seems that Satan is always a step ahead of Jehovah. He just is. Then you get the old, well, if you can't beat him, join him thing that comes into play from Jesus, telling the governing body to catch up to something Satan's been doing for over a century. I just don't know. But Brother Flegel then shifts gears in this update by saying this, quote, "Now, we'd like to update you on the situation in Venezuela. As previously announced on jdub.org, 2 major earthquakes struck just seconds apart on June 24th, 2026. The larger quake had a magnitude of 7.5, the strongest to hit Venezuela since 1900. Tragically, 46 of our brothers and sisters died. 35 more were injured and 807 were displaced." End quote. Absolutely awful. Absolutely tragic. Horrible. There's little to say about this aside from the fact that it's heartbreaking. It's very heartbreaking. However, and I'm sorry that I feel compelled to deliver this, this organization has always enjoyed leveraging earthquakes to prove that we're all living in the last days. I'm not going to turn this into a discussion about earthquakes, but once again, they never miss an opportunity to highlight a tragedy to support their belief system. It's not new. However, with just a little more thought, just a few more brain synapses, it's important to point out, brace yourselves, people, how apparently either impotent or incredibly selective or ambivalent their God Jehovah seems to be with how he protects his dedicated people. We all remember the ancient JW lore of angels protecting people in field service or from persecution. But then, without explanation, the same God that sent those angels out in field service and to his book carts either wasn't able to or didn't want to save 46 Jehovah's Witnesses from an earthquake in Venezuela? Make it make sense, people. Were the 46 who died in the earthquake just low-hour publishers? Was Jehovah placing bets with Satan again like he did with his guy Job? If you're a Jehovah's Witness, how do you cognitively dismiss this during the next talk featuring Jehovah's strong hand of protection that you're going to get in the Kingdom Hall? He has a strong hand of protection unless you're in Venezuela during an earthquake? And it was this type of reasoning and disconnect that was among my first set of questions as a very young boy inside Jehovah's Witnesses. Make it make sense. Jehovah was and is either distracted, giving permission to the governing body for people to toast and clink glasses at JW weddings, or he was just bored and he just watched 46 people being killed by an earthquake. Ironically, on a planet that he himself created with tectonic plates that move and create earthquakes all the time? Is he blood guilty? I mean, it's almost like Jehovah created the first Twister game for the old timers. Remember Twister? It's your chance to rub up against someone you liked. But it's almost like Jehovah created an earth-wide game of Twister with moving tectonic plates, putting it on a planet where he then put his precious children, where the ground moves every so often and they get killed. Yeah, this is the governing body update. And yeah, this is how I think. I know I can't be alone. But carry on, Gage Flegel. He next says this, quote, hundreds of homes and kingdom halls, of course, were either damaged or destroyed. Can you imagine enduring such a trial? Our hearts ache for those suffering from this tragedy. Within just 48 hours of these quakes, 2 disaster relief committees were appointed and 5 branch committee members visited the area to shepherd the affected families. Food, water, shelter, hygiene supplies, and emergency medical care were provided, end quote. I'm going to show you what my critical mind does, but my very first thought when I paused the video after he said this was the one thing I noticed that he did not mention was that any of the 11 would-be kings actually visited Venezuela to offer some personal comfort and encouragement. Just a reminder that Jesus and Holy Spirit appointed committees of other men within 2 days. That was it. But none of you went? I mean, even Jesus sent the apostles places. You might remember that in the Bible, when a child died, Jesus sent the apostles to bring the family hygiene supplies. Remember that? No? You don't remember, huh? Because he didn't. He went himself. But here we are. And if you think I'm nitpicking, so be it. That's okay. These men and their organization exist solely, according to their own admission, to take care of Jesus' sheep. But they can't spare one of 11 to go down to Venezuela and talk to the people there. And yes, I do notice stuff like this immediately. But Gage Flegel continues with their standard uncorroborated, experience from ground zero in Venezuela that sounds more like a fabricated endorsement of them. Quote, in one touching example, when hygiene supplies began to run low, the brothers knew that Jehovah would take care of them. End quote. Wait a minute. Hold tight. Hard stop, Gage Flegel. Did you just say the brothers knew Jehovah would take care of them? Is this the same Jehovah who just watched on from heaven as his kids, 46 of them, were killed in 2 earthquakes? Same God? Same God. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the reasoning of the faithful and discreet slave. The same father that watched his kids killed and harmed and displaced will now provide them with some Band-Aids and a few bottled waters. What? Governing body, Gage Flegel in this case, help our minds, our subconscious brains understand this. You just said Jehovah would take care of them. You mean after he let them be harmed? And let us guess, he's handing out Band-Aids through you, Gage. You and the governing body, with the very money the victims gave you. You're just giving them back their donated money? How noble of these men. People, please think about this. You might remember when Jesus himself asked people for their flour to go fishing so he could then feed them with the food he just gave them. Give me some flour, go catch some fish, and I'll make some loaves and fishes and feed you with them. Wait a minute, I guess we're doing the work? Yeah! That's the reasoning of the governing body. He wants Jehovah's Witnesses to believe that Jehovah placed his precious children on a planet with tectonic plates that move and get them killed. He then just watches on as they get killed, but that he's also going to take care of them. He's going to take care of them by giving them supplies from the money that these people already gave him. Does it all make sense? It's insane. And this stuff passes under the radar of Jehovah's Witnesses on the regular. This is what I see when I watch these, and I hate watching them. They're entertaining as hell, but I hate watching them. But he continues, and I mean to tell you, this is about to get really good. Pay attention. See what you learn here. Gage Flegel then says, quote, and just hours later, a man who is not a witness came to the Kingdom Hall with goods to donate. Relatives had told him, and small break here, I'm sure this is exactly what people say and how they spoke in Venezuela, right? He says, they told him, quote, look for Jehovah's Witnesses. They're well organized and will make sure your donations reach those that truly need it. The man donated about 50 hygiene kits, the very items that were urgently needed, end quote. This is an unreal insult to the human brain. If you are keeping track at home, they rolled this guy out. And we all recognize these little stories after attending years of assemblies, conventions, and public talks. Uncorroborated, nameless people that incidentally, despite giving these gifts, are also going to be teed up for death at Armageddon because you'll notice they're not a Jehovah's Witness. But wasn't it nice that they brought us some gifts to help us in our time of need? Let's kill them. But with very little imagination. If you actually believe this story, I do not, Jehovah watched as his kids were killed and hurt by earthquakes. He then allowed their supplies to run low. So Jehovah then used a worldly person, a non-witness, to bring gifts to the very group of people that were supposed to be saving the worldly person, non-Jehovah's Witness, from a much worse genocide, set to hit any second now, where the same God Jehovah and all those he loves will be slaughtered by the God who is letting him deliver hygiene kits. Yeah. What are these hygiene kits anyway? Toilet paper, tampons, toothbrushes? But again, I'm going to say this again. Make it make sense. Jehovah watched on as an earthquake killed 46 people. Jehovah then sent a worldly non-Jehovah's Witness who somehow survived it. He let the witnesses die, but not this guy, to bring some gifts to him. This guy who brought the gifts is teed up to die at Armageddon anyway because he's not a witness. But please bring us our gifts because Jehovah didn't have any for us. This is the kind of insanity that is spewed out of the mouth of the governing body. Make it make sense. There is the obvious that many non-denominational people deliver to churches in time of need. People, they do it all the time. Do you bring your old clothes to Goodwill in the United States? Churches that, by the way, are known for providing disaster relief, including organizations like the Good Samaritan, the Red Cross, and a whole bunch of other ones. But no, not according to Gage Flegel in the governing body update 5. This wasn't just a kind man looking to help his neighbors, no matter their religion. This was a random guy whose family apparently wanted him to know, and I quote, that Jehovah's Witnesses are well organized with donations. Because they undoubtedly talk that way, right? The city is leveled, and this man's family just knew that Jehovah's Witnesses were the best people to give 50 hygiene kits to. It still staggers me. It staggers me that adults are sitting there watching this and not putting any of this together. Any of this. A governing body member quoting this non-Jehovah's Witness, bringing Jehovah's Witnesses who weren't taken care of by Jehovah hygiene kits, that someday that same governing body member may kill this same man who brought the hygiene kits because he never was a Jehovah's Witness. You can't make it up. But something else about this story struck me so hard. King Flegel mentions the number of Jehovah's Witnesses that were killed and injured in Venezuela. Oh, and of course, he also mentions that their real estate holdings, otherwise known as kingdom halls, were damaged. Can't leave that out. But how about the rest of us that actually like people? Those of us with human compassion. You may be interested in knowing that earthquakes don't just target Jehovah's Witnesses. I know that's shocking. Instead of commenting on the terrible tragedy that impacts the very people, the masses of mankind that Jehovah's Witnesses claim to be desperately trying to save from Armageddon, Gage just never mentions those people, all the other Venezuelans that were killed by these earthquakes. Just that Jehovah's Witnesses were getting killed and then helped from Jehovah, and Jehovah watches the surviving families and injured people of the other 6,125 people in Venezuela that were also killed by these two earthquakes. And Jehovah's watching them apparently not getting any help because they're not Jehovah's Witnesses. None of this tends to land on the mind of a witness. How ironic, absurd, and uncaring it all is. But the fact remains, and I know I beat a dead horse because that's how I deal with shock. Jehovah watches earthquakes kill his publishers. Then he hands out Band-Aids to those that survived, but only to Jehovah's Witnesses, and he even uses their money to buy the Band-Aids and give them back to them. He drones on about kingdom halls being prepared. Wow, thank God, and shepherding visits coming for those in Venezuela, blah, blah, blah. And then he just leaves it. That's it. Governing body update on the tragic death of over 6,000 people, but he only wants to talk about 46. But King Flegel isn't done leveraging disasters. He then says, quote, as mentioned in our last update, a major earthquake also struck the Philippines on June 8, 2026. Sadly, one of our sisters died. 34 publishers were injured and 429 were displaced, end quote. Another awful tragedy. Awful. Not to be outdone by modern media groups, we get overhead video shots from a very expensive drone overlooking the disaster in the Philippines. Buildings leveled and rubble everywhere. Witnesses are treated to the site. But it's what he says next that just blew my mind. And again, during my time as a Jehovah's Witness, I'm sure I would have been like most witnesses watching this update, just checked out. I would have just been checked out thinking about what I want to have for lunch or something. Or maybe I would have been leveled about those poor people in those countries, Venezuela and the Philippines. But I wouldn't have likely been paying attention to what he says next. Are you ready? Gage Flegel then says next into the camera, quote, the governing body has approved sufficient funds for humanitarian aid and reconstruction of homes and kingdom halls in the Philippines. Please continue to pray for our brothers and sisters in Venezuela and the Philippines, and for those around the world affected by disasters. We thank you for your generous donations to the worldwide work, which enables us to provide relief and support, end quote. I paused the update, people. I paused it. The drone that they were using for the aerial shots of destroyed Kingdom Halls cost more than the Kingdom Hall itself, shown in the video shot in the Philippines. But the governing body has approved what he called sufficient funds. What does that even mean? How much was approved? From where? Does this, I don't know, have anything to do with the purchase of a new data center in upstate New York? You remember, Gage, the same month both Argentina and the Philippines were leveled by earthquakes, and Jehovah's Witnesses died along with many others, and you and your 10 best friends were approving, how did he call it? Sufficient funds to help those desperate people, funds that were made up of their own money. Well, during that same time period, Gage, you and the governing body also approved sufficient funds and purchased a 68-acre campus featuring an approximately 433,000 square foot data center located immediately adjacent to your already existent headquarters on Kings Drive. So, just seconds ago, you mentioned that you approved sufficient funds to help Jehovah's Witnesses who lost everything from their homes to even lives. You know, the precious sheep you exist to protect in Jesus' name, the ones he laid his life down for. So, I'm sure you approved at least the same amount of sufficient funds to help those desperate people in Venezuela and the Philippines, right? At least the same amount as you approved to add to your sprawling resort compound in upstate New York. Same amount of sufficient funds, right? People are dead and dying. Here's some pocket change. How much? Well, we're not told. But during the same time period, they are buying another 68 acres, including a data center on a planet Jehovah is going to wipe out at Armageddon. What a rascal that King Jesus is, isn't he? What a rascal. Up there since 1914, accumulating property after property worth in the billions on a planet that will soon be a paradise and the dwelling place of giraffes and stuff. Even as that same Jesus continues to claim that he is coming like a thief in the night to start his own garden party, kill every non-Jehovah's Witness and usher in that paradise with no need for data centers or even office space, because we will no longer need to make Jesus movies or print literature anyway. We're already in paradise, right? Right. The delusional, overt dishonesty of the governing body on full display in Governing Body Update number 5. Your money, your donated money, being used to purchase acres of office space, data centers. And don't forget that before their new data center just a few weeks ago, during the same time they approved sufficient funds for people dying in Venezuela and the Philippines, they also bought a $16 million luxury hotel close to the beach in Korsør, Denmark, to be used as a regional training center. Training for what? We're not sure. But isn't it nice that Gage Flegel and the other 10 men on the governing body approved sufficient funds using your donated money to help people suffering without homes, running water, or hygiene products, even as they bought two multi-million-dollar properties. We can all empathize with current Jehovah's Witnesses because we've been there. But there is no denying that all of this is just gross ignorance at this point. Jehovah's Witnesses have checked out. Cognitive dissonance is a bitch. People are looking the other way. Some are leaving. Ugh, I'm so excited about that. But the 11 men in New York get on camera during tragedy, during death and mayhem. They don't mention their other two multi-million-dollar real estate purchases, just that they approved sufficient funds. And when they think you might be paying attention, they distract you with things like beard oil, or no more neckties, and drone shots of leveled kingdom halls. Even as they buy up multi-million-dollar properties around the world. Jehovah's Witnesses are so completely checked out. It is so damn tragic to watch. It is tragic. They're doing it in broad daylight. They're doing it with a little guy wearing a sport coat and a beard. But Gage then gets back to doing what they claim is their sole reason for existence by saying that the governing body has chosen a year text to feed our spiritual needs. He gets even more excited when he reminds us that in recent years, Jesus himself has them writing songs based on the year text. Yeah, Jesus has gotten into the music industry. He's a spin doctor. He reminds the audience how important spiritual food is when he says this. He asks, quote, this is so ironic. Pay attention to this. Go watch it. He looks into the camera and asks this, quote, who decides what physical food you'll eat? Usually you do. What about spiritual food? Who chooses what you will eat? Jehovah generously provides an abundance of spiritual food through the faithful and discreet slave. We receive a banquet of rich dishes right on time. At our meetings, assemblies, and conventions, we are served a delicious, well-prepared spiritual feast. End quote. Are you sure about that, Gage? Are you sure? The amount of bragging these men do about what they give Jehovah's Witnesses is wild, especially when you consider what they actually give them. You remember, though, this was the kind of thing that got Moses actually killed by Jehovah. This is what got Moses killed. They're endlessly pointing at themselves as the source of this delicious feast. And he's got to be kidding. He goes on to list all the amazing food he and his 10 buddies are providing us. And here is the list he gives on camera. Quote, the Watchtower Online Library, the Research Guide, and Scriptures for Christian Living. End quote. Yes, indeed. Indeed, Gage. What a rich, delicious spiritual feast you are giving us. Don't point too hard. It got Moses killed, okay? Made just for us, though, by the faithful and very discreet. It's very discreet of you to call out what you're doing. As they announced at the 2012 annual meeting, is now just them, the governing body. Thanks for the reminder, Gage. What delicious spiritual food can a Jehovah's Witness find in the Watchtower Online Library, you ask? Folks, I use it here weekly. But first, I encourage Jehovah's Witnesses to actually use and dig into the Watchtower Online Library. Please, please do it. I'm an apostate. I'm demonic. And I'm praying that you go use the Watchtower online library. Please. The problem is, Gage and the governing body know that most don't. They won't even open it. But if they did, what would they find there, according to King Gage Flegel? Well, I'm glad you asked. How about just one example that I found in the Watchtower library just minutes ago? It's still there. Go find it. It's from the Watchtower of February 15th, 1976, pages 122 and 123. This is a delicate matter, but according to Gage, how did he call this? A delicious feast. And who gets to choose who feeds you? Well, we do. Here it is. Quote, likewise, unclean practices such as masturbation, which can be a stepping stone to homosexuality. Wait, what? Have been dealt with in a serious yet understanding way to help individuals keep clean and pure in Jehovah's eyes. End quote. What? Wait a minute. What a feast. Who knew? A heterosexual person who touches their own body? Well, it seems your sexuality is going to flip to the other team any second now by just exploring what you were born with. This is the kind of rich, spiritual food you can eat at the table of the faithful and oh so discreet slave by means of your own library. Just for the record, a quick public service announcement. Touching yourself in private does not make you gay. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with being gay, subject for another day. Good food? Do you want to just eat it up? He then goes on to show us a family that is taking advantage of all their tasty spiritual food and goes on to say we too should all feed ourselves on their library. God, I hope people do. He even encourages Jehovah's Witnesses to, quote, think about what they read. Yes, I do encourage that. And for once, I agree with the governing body. Please, if you're a witness, think about what they're serving you. Instead of just accepting it as from Jehovah himself, really think about it. It's all in your library. It's not us apostates. We don't pump this stuff out. He continues, blah, 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 from Gage. Then he claims that Jehovah is providing us all with music. Oh, yeah. Jehovah, again, him and his son have become spin doctors. And he sure is. Over the past few years, we've been able to see via their website that Jehovah has provided us with music on such compelling things like a singing book cart. Remember that one? I am a book cart, you... And he's even taken a few pointers from Donnie and Marie by going a little bit country and also a little bit rock and roll. We've seen them. The videos are there. But King Flegel then announces that they're ratcheting it all up in coming months, that he and his governing body friends will be providing Jehovah's Witnesses with a variety of upbuilding music. Move over, Spotify. Here comes the governing body. He tells us that it will be called international music. Yeah, okay. Very creative. He then says, quote, these songs will be added to jw.org and JW Library and reflect the local flavor of music enjoyed by our worldwide brotherhood. These songs will not be translated into other languages and no videos will be created, end quote. Bummer. He then goes on to say, quote, this music is especially intended for younger witnesses. Would you like to hear a sample? End quote. They always want the young people. But yes, Gage, I would. I'd like to hear, what did you said it was going to reflect local flavor from anywhere in the world? Would be no videos? Well, good. Since you're taking requests, I'd like to hear a sample. How about a sample of what you guys have created from somewhere local to me? I'd like some sampling of the Faithful Slaves music from, I'm going to pick a random spot, Compton, California. Let's go Compton. Maybe Crenshaw. What do you got? Is that local enough? I'd like to hear some Compton flavor. So hit me. It's unbelievable. But he then, and you have to see it to believe it, shows an app, yes, an app, on an iPhone where Jehovah's Witnesses will be able to listen to this international music featuring local flavor for young people. It all, by the way, every single song he shows, there's a couple of them, it all focuses on, I know this is going to shock you, them. And he claims it is, quote, heart-stirring music for use as they go about their daily activities, end quote. Sure it is, Brother Flegel. Satan, you remember him. He's the bad guy that you guys are constantly having to, outdo. Satan may be rolling out Doja Cat, Sabrina Carpenter, and King Leroy, but you guys are rolling out kingdom songs to talk about your make-believe paradise and how great your organization is. Spotify should definitely be worried. Imagine that young book cart witness who just wants to listen to some somber, deleting their Spotify in favor of, and I'm not kidding, he shows it in the update, he plays the song called Joy is in the Air. Yeah, move over, somber and the Beebs. This is the governing body's moment. International music. Satan may have the Swifties, but Jehovah, well, he has the best damn boy band ever assembled, made up 11 old guys who are providing you with melodic reminders that you will love their damn music, or they too might just kill you at Armageddon. You just can't even make this stuff up anymore. They have jumped the tracks, man. Okay, I need to stop. I just say this. Make sure you bookmark the international music section on the only website powered by Holy Spirit, especially you young people. Isn't it interesting who they're really worried about? And with all of this, folks, that's all I got. I'm burnt out. And with that, I'm going to kill this thing. Governing Body Update number 5 did not disappoint. 17 minutes of the best spiritual food served by the biggest spiritual giants on planet Earth. You undoubtedly really full. You're just full spiritually from the rich banquet of what I just shared with you. But again, as I often do, go watch it. But as I like to do a reminder that everything you heard via Governing Body Update number 5 came to you directly from the throne of Jesus Christ. He's watching on and directing this on planet Earth from heaven since 1914, allegedly. And for proof, Examining the Scriptures Daily, 2007, page 34, tells us, quote, Christ thus leads the congregation by means of the Spirit-anointed, faithful and discreet slave and its governing body, end quote. Yeah, clearly. But just to be sure, I'm going to have to watch the movie Jesus directed them to make about himself again. So much to look forward to. And it made me all think, this rich spiritual feast, it made me think of the late, great Anthony Bourdain when he said, quote, bad food is made without pride by cooks who have no pride and no love. Bad food is made by chefs who are indifferent or who are trying to be everything to everybody. End quote. Yeah, indeed, Anthony. After watching Governing Body Update number 5, I'm reaching for a bottle of Tums. Thanks for being with me this week. Wherever you may be well.